If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be watching another interview from the SIL. And today I'm delighted to be able to say that I am joined by the latest addition to the Wenhaston force for the upcoming season. A lot of good things now starting to happen at the club. I'm joined by Charlie Canham. Charlie, mate, how are you doing? You well?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. Yeah, how are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad, thanks. How's lockdown and life without football? Has it been nice to kind of switch off for a bit, or are you kind of like confident?
Yeah, I've been working quite a lot through lockdown. So I work in a primary school, so I haven't really had that much. I only had a couple of weeks off, so I haven't really had time to really be sitting around and do nothing, sort of thing.
Right.
No, I haven't really. Yeah, so I've been keeping busy, which has been helpful for me. I've tried to be keeping fit when I've had the chance to, sort of thing. But apart from that, luckily I've been busy. Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a very sort of strange time, and especially for like, you know, things from a football perspective. But it feels as if we're kind of turning a corner now in terms of. We look like we're getting somewhere in terms of next season potentially starting, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I've been reading all sorts of things on Twitter about. Originally, it was saying how I didn't really think it was going to be coming back at all, even for next season. And then obviously, more recently, we've had more guidance and on a framework of when they're looking to come back, which is very good. And obviously, it's just more of a buzz to think, all right, pre-season now, sort of thing. We're going to get ready to start going again.
That's the thing. No one looks forward to pre-season, but
everyone's
eager for pre-season.
Exactly. I know what you mean. Yeah, definitely.
Let's talk before we go into the fact that you have come back to Wenhaston. Let's talk about where you've come from very briefly, because the past 2 seasons you were playing for Leiston, which obviously is a great club and a big club in the Suffolk area. How do you kind of reflect on your 2 years at the club? Because that must have been a hell of a move when it first happened. And talk to me about your time there.
Yeah, well, I played for Leiston ever since I was about 15. I went over there. When I was maybe 14, 15. When they were called I started playing for them when they were called Sizewell and Noddershall, but they didn't really have anything to do with Leiston as a youth team. So they weren't actually anything that weren't linked to them. They were just in that area. And then eventually I had a season there, and eventually we linked up with Leiston, and that's when the youth team, a few players started coming over, because obviously the name of Leiston came over and more players wanted to start joining.
Sure.
And I've played for them ever since then, really. And then when I turned 16, that's when I first started playing for Wenhaston on a Saturday. So that was my first adult team I played for. And then during the week, I still play for Leiston under-18s. So on a Thursday night football, I'd be playing for Leiston, and on a Saturday, I'd be playing for Wenhaston first team. But my link for Wenhaston comes from my dad's been the secretary for 8 seasons now. My uncle's been the chairman for almost, I think, maybe 30 years now. So I always grew up watching them on a Saturday afternoon. That's always a team that I wanted to play for, if you know what I mean. When I was young, that was always a team that I watched.
Love it.
That's where the link comes from. And then when obviously I then played for Wenhaston for them 2 seasons, and then when it come. Then we had our last under-18 season. We won the league, and we got to the semi-final of the cup. Lost on penalties. If we won that, we would have played at Colchester United Stadium. And we've lost out on penalties. That was a horrible feeling. But we then went on to win the league, which was good. And I ended up getting Player of the Year that season. So that was a really good season for me. I scored quite a few goals from centre back. It was a really good season. That's probably one of the most enjoyable seasons that I've had from them. But then after that season finished, Leiston wanted me to come over I think there's a few managers back now from the reserve. We've had a few different ones now.
Yes, they have.
But yeah, so I first went I then played some reserves after 2 seasons at Wenhaston.
Right.
And that's 2 seasons ago now. And then
I
had a good season, enjoyed it there. Played mostly in the reserves, but had a few with Glenn Driver, had a few opportunities in the first team. Started training with them quite regularly, and had a few opportunities to. I think I made my debut in that first season, and they got off, and then had a few appearances from the bench. And then last season, I got offered at the start of the season. I got offered my first contract that I got, and I was obviously buzzing about that at the time, and that's where that sort of come from. And then throughout the season, different things happened, like a lot of managerial changes, as we spoke about earlier, you're aware of. And then different things changed, and I was playing very out of position, and we weren't necessarily doing as well in the reserves, and I was mainly in the reserves. But it was that was probably the one moment where I struggled. I started to think, I don't know if I wasn't enjoying it as much as I usually. I didn't wake up on a Saturday with a buzz like I always have, if you know what I mean.
Right.
And that's what I've always done. I've always been football first, and that was the first time I've ever thought, I just just don't want to do it. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And that was so I had lots of chats with the reserve manager at the time, which was before was Ian. So that started Ian, and then changed to Wes, and then so that happened for a few weeks on. I had a good few chats with them in the reserves, and then nothing really changed. So then eventually I got eventually asked to leave and got out of it, just purely on the fact of just enjoyment of football, really. Nothing else of that. Just nothing against Leiston, because I've given them all the praise in the world. You never know, I might even end up back there in the future.
Yeah.
I've never ruled that out, but I just felt like it was right for me to go back, and obviously with my link to Wenhaston, it would just work perfectly for me to go back there and just start enjoying my football again, really. That's what was going to happen before, obviously, coronavirus. I was going to finish my season there, but
okay.
So that's why I was going to carry on my season there.
And
then obviously what's happened now, my dad's now taken over there. Obviously you can go on to next.
Yeah. So a couple of things about Leiston before I kind of move on, because there's a couple of things you said in there which are quite interesting. They had a lot of changeover in the first team, which as a result of losing quite a few players in a very short period of time during the summer meant that they had to supplement the first team with a lot of players from the reserves.
Yeah.
Do you kind of, for you as an individual and not looking at the whole club as a perspective, do you as an individual feel that kind of maybe lessened your enjoyment of it because the people that were around you that you've kind of known and, played with in the reserves are all of a sudden they're now going on to play for the first team, and you're then having to effectively, you're like the leader in that reserves, for such a young age as well.
I know exactly what you mean, especially because we, when I first signed for the reserve, we had a few players who are now in the first team who were maybe a year or a couple of years older than me, and they were obviously seen as the leaders at that time. And then now they've all moved into the first team. And we've now got players coming from under 18s who are all only 16, 17, and they're looking at us now in the reserves for guidance. You know what I mean? And we're still wanting some from our coaches and older players ourselves. So I do know exactly that probably did have a big factor, especially when a lot of players moved on from the first team. We did get pushed into the first team. I wouldn't say necessarily everyone was ready for that step, because it is such a big step from furlough none first division to Leiston first team. It's such a big gap, and
it really is.
It's good to be given the chance to lots of players, but obviously it's a very physical standard of football, as well with the quality. You really do have to be strong to be playing in that, and
definitely
there's not many 19, 20-year-olds who are ready for that step, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. And you mentioned about the change in management there, not only from the first team, but also from the reserves as well, because for some people that can be, seen as a fresh start. It can be seen as another voice to kind of listen to. But when you are at such a young age, do you think the consistency is key to just have that same message again and again? Yeah,
definitely, especially when it would be such a shock of someone we wouldn't have been told about it. It would just be the day that it happened, we'd be let know that had happened, and then be able to speak to the person after, sort of thing. Especially, it's so run like a professional club, if you know, like actual. You just don't. It's like obviously at a lower level, you'd hear about these things and you'd talk about it. It's like not you don't get sacked at that level, but that sometimes you can either get sacked or you can leave. You know what I mean? It does have a big factor on not knowing who's coming in. Are you going to be starting, sort of thing like that? And it is like So it does have a big factor on whatever you're trying to achieve at the end of the day.
Yeah. So for you as an individual, going into, you mentioned about the fact that towards the end of the season, if we were able to complete it, you were going to go back home anyway. With what has happened at Leiston, I have to ask the question before we move on, with the fact that, you know, the likes of Darren Eadie, Chris Wiggers now in there. They've just recently appointed a new coach. I can't remember the bloke's name. I think it's, Lee Norfolk. That's the one. Was there any temptation to kind of maybe stick around and see what the project is like moving forward with that? Or for you, was it about, I want to come back and start enjoying my football again?
Yeah, well, because I decided to leave even before no one even knew they were coming over. That hadn't even happened before I made my decision, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So at that time they weren't even. They had nothing to do with any of it, so I wouldn't have even thought then. But I haven't heard from any of them since. I've heard from a couple of people from Leiston who I spoke to before, who are staff at Leiston, and I get on with them well, and they always talk to me, but I never. I think it was just I'd made a decision in my head that whatever happened on with the first team or the reserves, I needed to have a fresh start, whether that be at Wenhaston or whether that be somewhere else. Yeah, I just felt like I needed to, for myself, just not stay in the same sort of bubble on what like I was used to in my comfort zone, and try and just because I know a lot of players who wouldn't even mind me saying that people at that standard wouldn't take the step down because they'd see that as such a step in the wrong direction, if you know what I mean. And to me, going back there to enjoy it, it's a good step forward in the right direction for me. Yeah, so that's what I'm trying to get back to enjoying it.
Definitely. Let's talk about the move and let's get into the new club. For the club, it's been a very difficult past couple of seasons. We had the relegation into Division 1, and then last year, as many teams do when they come into Division 1, it's such a competitive league and anyone can beat anyone on a day.
Definitely.
It is like the SIL version of the Championship. It doesn't matter. You have to be on your game at all times. And the club finished in 10th place last year. So for you, coming back to the club, how much are you kind of looking forward to it? Do you think it's going to be, quite a big challenge? What's your kind of initial thought?
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it because I've been speaking to we've been doing a lot of tour. Obviously, only recently you could start registering players. The clubs can, but because my dad's the manager. He took on the first team role, which has been, I'd say, it's probably been waiting to happen for a lot of years now, because he's always been such a big figure at the club. He's always been the secretary. He's always had a big opinion on everything and everyone. And he's done a lot of coaching when he was younger, coached different teams, and he's only recently now thought, right, this season I'm going to, because obviously our current manager from last season was ready. He was ready just to take a coaching role, not necessarily be the direct manager. So he's still staying on. Mark Jeffries as a coaching role. Good. I think Dad was just ready to, instead of keep talking about what to do, he's ready to take on the step and actually do it. If you know what I mean. So that has been. I'd probably say that had a big, for him and myself, that had a big factor on me wanting to have a season at Wenhaston again, because I don't think he wouldn't have done it if I weren't staying, and maybe I wouldn't have done it if he wasn't in there. It's just vice versa like that. So I've had the last few weeks I spoke to so many players myself, trying to get people to come over ready for pre, because we've started training the last couple of weeks. We have social distance. Okay. Had quite a few players over both weeks. It's a lot of new faces. Obviously, you've seen Tyler got announced on Twitter as well recently.
Spoke to him the other day.
Yeah, and he was buzzing to get back into it. And it's like people like that. There's so many people who weren't even playing in the last couple of seasons, who I know myself, who just want to get back into football really. And it's just there's so many people who go under the radar, if you know what I mean. I'm just ready to get, even with the boys who have already been there, still loads of players. Everyone's re-signed from last year, which is good. And that's first team and reserves. It's just about, we really just want to get two teams running, if you know, because there's so many clubs who just stick with their first team and just concentrate on that. But with such a it's a family and orientated club, but we want to bring other people in now from other places just to make it more more people welcome. Because sometimes people can think it's just my area, but if you get more people from, say, Ipswich or somewhere, so many people who are open to coming to places. There's so many players about who don't necessarily get the chance to get minutes and different things like that. It's just like
definitely. So how do you think things are going to fare? Being managed by your dad, because that can be a strange dynamic at times.
Yeah, definitely. Well, he's only ever been an assistant to me before,
right?
So I had a manager assistant, but that won't have an effect on. He's been as hard on me as any player ever since football. He's always took me to every football game and all that. He's always been at every football game. It's always like that. But I'd never want. I've played under, like you say, with people whose dads have been managers, and they always look at their son and and they just think that there's nothing bad about that, like about us son. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not going to be it's not going to be like that at all. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, God, that was like my youth team at Stowe Falcons. Jesus Christ. There was. I'm just going to tell this very quickly. There was a goalkeeper, and for the life of me, I cannot remember his name. He was absolutely terrible, but his dad was the manager, and I couldn't get a look in. I'm not going to get too much into it because I'll get wound up. But anyway, So this upcoming season, then you're talking about a lot of new things happening with the club, a lot of players coming in for pre-season, which is great. Have you had any discussions as a club, as a unit, as a squad about what you're wanting to achieve for next season? Because as I said, it is a bloody hard and competitive league and a lot of good teams in there. So what have you guys said about the upcoming season?
Well, basically taken from last season, because I still watched quite a lot of games last season. I still went over there quite a bit, so I know, and I've spoke to so many lads because I just always kept up to date of how they were doing.
Right.
And what they were most, like from last season, what they took from that the only thing they didn't necessarily do as much as they wanted to was just play football. It was not get the ball on the deck and actually keep the ball and actually not be afraid to have the ball at your feet. So what we want to focus on this season is trying to get the ball on the deck and actually get playing some attractive football again, really. Because when I was at Wenhaston before, we played some great football. We were always based on playing from the back and keeping the ball and playing attack and football. It was just, that's why we want to get. That's not necessarily the reason we're getting new faces, but adding firepower. That's what we missed last season was goals, and also we did leak too many goals. But hopefully, me coming in, I'll help that as well. That's what it says. But when you have someone up top who can score, that does make such. I know it sounds so obvious, but that does make such a difference especially when you're being pinned back, which they were a lot last season. They were always defending and not having that outlook. If you know what I mean. So what their aim is just to finish as high as we can in the table. We're not going to say we want to win the league. We're not going to say we want to finish in a certain position. Finish as high as we possibly can in the table, and just have a committed squad each week, and not to have people saying, "Oh, I can play this week, I can play that week." That's not what we want. We want people who are going to be committed for the whole season, giving 100% every single game. That's what we want.
So it's more about getting the club in terms of back on the map, so to speak. It's about bringing the identity back and bringing the club into a good light, and get the football back that there was a couple of years ago, rather than let's think bigger picture, and let's think about the next couple of years rather than we have to get promoted this season or else. Is that fair?
Yeah, we're not going to look at it like that, because obviously if you it's just from where we went last couple of seasons, I don't think you can suddenly just say, "Oh, we're going to get promoted." We need to get promoted. I don't think we're going to be realistic about it. We're not going to set dreams that aren't going to happen. Targets aren't necessarily going to happen. It's just what we want is the club has done so well to keep going after the mass exodus that happened.
Yeah, definitely.
Like most clubs, I think we're probably one off would have just folded and there wouldn't be a club anymore.
We've seen it so many times.
Yeah, and that is what is such a. I think that's something to be so proud of as a club. Everyone behind the closed doors, behind the scenes, there's so many people who go unrecognised. Like my dad, for example, like my uncle, for example, like Mark Jeffries, the coach, like going from them to the groundsman, like Rod, who's there. My granddad does the groundsman. So there's so many different people behind the scenes who do everything. And people just don't necessarily even think about that. And that's how a club runs. You know what I mean? That's what that's which is sad to think that people don't actually quite realise what goes on behind at a club, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, definitely. And I suppose for you as an individual, is it just about getting back to enjoying football and just, you know, getting that feel and that buzz back, as you mentioned, on a Saturday morning, just to have that feeling again?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my main aim is just to get back enjoying it, and I'm focusing purely on this season because one thing that kept me from, so at the end of the day, I still want to play at the highest level possible. I'm not just going to say I want to play for, necessarily play for Wenhaston for the rest of my career, footballing career, because my main aim for my footballers to always be at the highest level possible. And that's when I first got my contract with Leiston. That's why I was so buzzing, because that was the next thing to do, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Which was also made it such a hard decision to drop back down at the end of the day, which I still feel proud of myself that I've been able to do that, because I still don't feel most people would have been able to admit that in themselves and actually do that. But what I purely want to do is want to focus on getting stronger and bigger, because I'm a defender, and go and play for Leiston first team. The coaches there will say, well, they even told me that I just needed to be more physically stronger. I'm only 20 at the end of the day, and there's no reason why I can't play this season and then go maybe the next season after and go back up to a standard that, because there's always going to be options. There's always going to be options to go to where.
Definitely. Well, I think I speak on behalf of everyone in the SIL. It's good to have you back in our league, and Leiston's loss is our gain, so to speak. I'm happy to see you back. And for me, as somebody who's fairly new to the league, I've only been in and around it for about 2 or 3 years. I want to start seeing what I've heard so much about the club. I want to be able to see that now, rather than the gradual decline that's happened. So, with yourself and your dad and everybody who's on board of the club, I hope that we can start seeing things turn around. And, I just wish you guys all the best of luck for the upcoming season. I hope it goes well, and I will 100% be coming over at some point to check you guys out and come along for a match day experience.
Definitely, we'll look forward to seeing it,
Nice one. Well, cheers for your time, Charlie. Really appreciate it. If you guys have enjoyed the video, make sure you hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you want to take that support one step further, you can do that either via Patreon or via Ko-fi, which are optional monthly donation or one-off donation services. That would be really appreciated. Links for both of those will be in the description. But until next time, as always, adios.